The first time I met Karen, she was already marching across my new lakeside property like she owned the water, the land, and the air I was breathing. I had moved to Clearwater Ridge to get away from noise, paperwork, and people who thought rules existed just to be barked at others. After 12 years as a federal investigator, I'd had enough of chaos. I wanted peace. A quiet dock. A small cabin. Morning coffee with mist curling over the lake. But peace lasted exactly 3 days. Because on day 4, Karen arrived. She wore the kind of sunglasses that made her look permanently offended, and she held a clipboard like it was a weapon issued by a tyrannical HOA military. And she marched, no, stormed, straight up my driveway without so much as a hello. "You need to sign these immediately," she said, shoving a stack of papers at me. I glanced at the first page. Clearwater Ridge Community HOA, mandatory lake maintenance contributions. "I'm not part of your HOA," I said calmly. Her jaw dropped like I'd insulted her ancestors. "Everyone on this lake must be in the HOA. This is a regulated community." "No," I replied, flipping the page. "My parcel number is exempt. My realtor made that clear. This land predates the HOA by 30 years. Karen leaned in until her perfume stung my eyes. "You don't get to refuse the HOA. I run things here. And you will pay your dues." I simply smiled. "Not happening." Her nostrils flared. She snatched the documents back. "You're making a very big mistake." It was the first of many threats. Over the next week, she escalated to petty harassment. Notes taped to my door. HOA violation slips for things that weren't even rules. A warning for non-approved dock shoes. A notice demanding I paint my cabin a community-approved shade of beige. I ignored all of it. And as my silence grew, so did her fury. Because Karen wasn't just an HOA president. She was a tyrant with a taste for control. One evening, as the sun dipped orange across the lake, I sat on my dock, fishing rod in one hand, coffee in the other. Perfect peace, until I heard heels clacking down my wooden planks like an approaching demon. "What now?" I muttered. Karen appeared, hands on hips. "You are illegally fishing. On my property. On our lake," she snapped. "And until you pay your HOA fees, you are trespassing." I couldn't help but laugh. That was the spark that lit her fuse. She stepped back, whipped out her phone, and hissed, "Fine. If you won't comply, I'm calling the police." "Go ahead," I said. "I'll wait." She blinked, clearly not expecting that. But she dialed anyway, loudly narrating how a hostile man was refusing lawful HOA directives and illegally using the lake. I calmly reeled in my fishing line while she described me like a lunatic criminal. 20 minutes later, the distant wail of sirens echoed through the trees. Karen straightened. "Finally, someone with authority. You're going to learn how things work around here." I didn't move. I just sat on the dock and watched her rehearse her dramatic victim pose. 2 sheriff deputies stepped out of their car. "Ma'am, sir, we got a call about a disturbance." Karen sprinted toward them like a contestant in the HOA Olympics. "That man," she pointed wildly at me, "is refusing to comply with our legally required HOA. He's trespassing on our lake." He yelled at me, threatened me, and I didn't threaten anyone, I said calmly. "This is my property, and I'm exempt from the HOA." Karen's mouth twisted. "He's lying. Arrest him." One deputy sighed. "Ma'am, HOA disputes are civil matters. They're not crimes." "What?" she shrieked. "He's breaking rules. HOA rules. That's illegal." The deputy tried to explain, but she talked over him, demanding they force me to sign her paperwork. When that didn't work, she demanded they write me a citation. When that failed too, she demanded they force me to leave community property, my own dock. The officers looked tired, annoyed, and dangerously close to walking away. And they would have, if Karen hadn't committed the mistake that changed everything. She pointed at my truck. "That vehicle isn't registered with the community. You need to search it. Now." The deputies stiffened. "Ma'am, we can't search someone's property without probable cause." "Probable cause?" she scoffed. "He's aggressive. Suspicious. Probably hiding something." I closed my eyes. Damn it. I really didn't want to do this. But if she kept pushing, she was going to drag these deputies into a legal nightmare. So I stood up and walked toward them. Karen flinched back, expecting me to argue. Instead, I reached into my jacket, pulled out my leather wallet, flipped it open, and revealed my federal badge. The gold glinted in the setting sun. Both deputies froze. Karen turned white as lake foam. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't step closer. I simply said, "I'm a federal investigator. This is a personal residence, not connected to my work. But if you continue trying to weaponize law enforcement for personal disputes, I will file a report. Karen staggered back like she'd been slapped. I didn't know, she stuttered. You can't, you're not allowed to. To what? I asked. Live here without being bullied. One deputy cleared his throat. Ma'am, you need to stop. Immediately. But, she sputtered. The deputy held up a hand. If you continue filing false reports, we'll charge you. Karen went silent for the first time since I'd met her. The deputies apologized to me, then drove away. Karen lingered a moment on my driveway, clicking her pen nervously against her clipboard. I didn't know you were federal, she whispered. And that would have changed what? I asked. She swallowed hard. You should have said. No, I replied. You should have behaved. She took a shaky breath and backed away, retreating up the hill toward her house. But I knew this wasn't over. Because people like Karen didn't retreat out of respect. They retreated to regroup. I was right. The next morning, I found a certified letter shoved in my mailbox. Mandatory HOA arbitration hearing, immediate participation required. Signed by Karen herself. I laughed. Then I picked up the phone and made a single call. Not to the police. Not to a lawyer. To a friend in federal land management. I explained the harassment. The lake. The boundary disputes. The false police call. My friend paused. Wait. Clearwater Ridge. That lake is partly federal watershed property. I thought so. And HOAs can't impose regulations on federal water zones. I know. You want me to take a look? Please do. 2 weeks later, just in time for Karen's hearing, 3 government vehicles rolled into the neighborhood. Forestry. Environmental oversight. Water safety compliance. Karen came running out of her house screaming, "What is the meaning of this?" A federal officer approached her calmly. "Ma'am, we're conducting a review of unauthorized governance over federal watershed boundaries." Karen blinked. "Unauthorized? What?" The officer handed her a paper. "You have been operating HOA authority over protected water zones without legal permission. This includes collecting fees, issuing restrictions, and threatening residents." Karen's face went slack. Another officer gestured to the lake. "We'll also be reviewing any structures, docks, or modifications built under this unauthorized authority." Residents began gathering, whispering, filming. Karen looked around desperately. "This is a mistake. I didn't know. No one told me." I stepped onto my porch and sipped my coffee. The federal officers didn't shut down the HOA entirely, but they suspended all lake-related rules, fee collection, and enforcement pending investigation. In other words, they took the lake out of Karen's hands. And without the lake, Karen had no power. By evening, neighbors were knocking on my door. They apologized, thanked me, explained how Karen had bullied them for years, fined them, controlled them, and used the HOA as her personal kingdom. "She called cops on you?" One man asked. "She used to stalk my yard with a measuring tape." "She fined me for my mailbox color," another said. "She banned paddleboards," a teenager added. The neighborhood wasn't angry at me. They were relieved. And when Karen tried to rally support, no one listened. Her authority dissolved like fog in sunlight. A month later, she resigned from the HOA. Rumors said she moved away soon after. I didn't celebrate. I didn't brag. I just walked down to my dock, cast my fishing line into the calm water, and finally enjoyed the quiet I'd been craving. The peace I'd moved here for. Peace that, ironically, required a federal badge to protect.